What's up, San Diego? I'm Claire McKee, and this is Real Talk San Diego. We have a great show planned for you today. I am joined in studio by two very awesome people. To my left, I have John Griffith. He is a family law attorney with Griffith, Young, and Lass. And I also have Steve Ploetz to my right. He's a realtor with Century 21 Award. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having us. This is great.
We ready to have some fun?
Oh, yes.
Steve Ploetz? I'm not living it down. I'm just going to say it different every time. It's Ploetz, though, just to be fair. So I always start up with a warm-up. So I want to get to know my guests better so you can get to know them better. And I think it's important because people do business with who they like, know, and trust, right? So the first question for the panel today is, where are you from? Are we native San Diegans, or I need to feel you out. So Steve, I'll start with you.
Born and raised. I was born in North County, went to school at UCSD, also in San Diego County. Why leave? You kidding me?
Why leave? So you're not one of those people that's like, I need to get out of here. It's like too perfect. I hear that sometimes, and I look at it, I'm like, what do you mean?
You know what's funny is when clients come into town, I tell them if they're from out of the area, I tell them, hey, if it's 68 degrees or it's 74 degrees, you have to start complaining if you're going to live here. If you're going to be a resident, if you're going to fit in.
Put on your Ugg boots. It's 65.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it drives me crazy. John, where are you from?
Actually, from all over the world. I'm an Army brat.
Okay, so talk to me about that.
Born in Panama, grew up in Germany. My dad was in the Army. Moved back to the States when I was in high school.
Wow.
Ninth grade, went to 3 different high schools, and then moved out here to San Diego 10 years ago for law
You
school.
are well-cultured, my friend.
But I'm staying here in San Diego for
Yeah,
sure.
not going anywhere?
No.
What was the coolest place you've lived? What was your favorite?
I'd say Germany.
Germany?
Yeah, it's cool to see the castles and all the old history kind of stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Do you speak German?
Ein bisschen. Yeah, a little bit.
Whatever that means. So the reason I ask where you're from is because the hype lately, I know you know, our Chargers are leaving, so I don't know how sad you are about this, but I have a feeling you might be kind of sad about it. So where are we at? Whoever wants to tell me how we're feeling.
Go ahead, John.
I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, so what I'm going to miss is the tailgating in Qualcomm. My wife's a big Chargers fan, so she's pretty sad. So
She shed a few tears, huh?
a little bit.
Yeah. It hurts. It definitely hurts. Steve, what about you?
Well, I'm not. We don't have television in my house.
Really?
Yeah, so we don't watch a lot of cable.
Okay.
We do the Netflix and Hulu thing. So in terms of sports, I've always enjoyed. I grew up with professional sports here in San Diego, and so the idea of professional sports leaving is, especially such a major one like NFL. You know, they're talking about an MLS team. There's been a lot of discussion.
I heard that.
My wife and I went to the U.S. national team playing, and there was a good turnout.
Okay.
So I don't know. From the real estate standpoint, I think there'll be a lot of changes because of that. But should I go on record saying that it doesn't totally break my heart that the Chargers have left? Yeah.
I'm from Ohio. I got to tell you, I feel the same exact way. I'm not broken up about it, but from the standpoint of having a professional team here, all we have is baseball now, which is fine. I mean, better than nothing. But why are we giving another one to LA? I don't know. That doesn't add up for me. But anyways, so you aren't huge on football. Do you have a team?
I watch a lot of college sports.
Okay, fair enough. We'll leave it at that. No big deal. And I'm with you on the cable. I think it's kind of a waste of money, to be honest with you. But let's talk a little bit more about you guys. So, Steve, give me a fun fact about yourself. What's something that our viewers probably wouldn't know about you?
I was on The Price is Right. I spun a dollar.
Did you?
Yeah. I got to the Showcase Showdown. Yeah. Had to bid on a car, a motorcycle, and a diamond necklace. And actually, the group that I was with heard how much it was. They were screaming at me the whole time because they knew, and if you were within $100, you win them both. Mm-hmm. But I didn't hear them, and I overbid.
No! So did you win anything?
Oh, yeah. I won $1,000, a Chase Lounge, like a bunch of camping stuff.
How cool is that?
That was an awesome experience.
Yeah, once in a lifetime, I feel like. How long ago was that?
That was in college. That was like 2002.
So cool.
Yeah.
So you went with your whole squad. Like, did you have like a color and all that you wore, like something?
We didn't
weird?
have a color, but I had big hair. My hair was like out to here.
Okay.
It was a different time.
Photos coming soon. John, you kind of shared that you've kind of been all over the world. You're an Army brat, and you were actually in the Army yourself.
Right.
Is that kind of your fun fact, or do you have something else for us?
That's a unique fact. Joined the Army out of high school, went to Korea as an 18-year-old. Lived there for a year. It was pretty cool being in the Army. You
You
learn
enjoyed
a lot
it?
about yourself. Yeah. Learn how to be a hard worker and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Never been on The Price is Right, though.
I was on Let's Make a Deal, and I didn't actually get to play, but whatever. So what do you guys like to do in your free time? Where can we find you on the weekend or whatever?
I've got 2 kids. I have a 13-year-old boy and then my wife and I had just had a little baby girl. She's 4 months old.
Oh, so, congratulations!
Thank you.
So you're starting over.
Yeah. But I love spending time with my family. Love my little baby. Love my family.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the beach and all that stuff. So.
What does your son like to do? Does he play any sports or anything?
All surfing. Always in the water.
Awesome.
Always in the ocean.
Awesome. Yeah. Surfing scares me, but that's very cool. He's braver than I am at 13. Steve, you probably don't really have weekends, right? Because, I mean, you're a realtor.
I work a lot of weekends, but, the last time that I was on, we had talked about having a new puppy. So now the puppy is 6 months, 7 months.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been a part of the routine, walking the dog. It's been, what I've found is it's been a great way to meet people, just people in our neighborhood, walking the dog. And many times because she's running crazy or I have to reel her in or whatever. But that's been a fun experience.
Or she's just so darn cute that everyone wants to stop and talk to her, right?
She is pretty cute.
Yeah.
Wait, they're not stopping to talk to me because I'm...
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and assume you're married, but I do hear that puppies are amazing chick magnets. So, one more question for you. What is one piece of advice you would tell your younger self?
Oh, that's a great question.
That's a good one, right?
I would say stick with it.
Stick with it.
Just because there's, I can only speak about real estate, but certainly in all different avenues of life, but definitely in real estate, there's ups and downs. There's things that we set a plan, we set a goal, and things change, and the world changes, and the market changes. And I think that as long as we stick with it, whatever it may be, things tend to work out.
Persevere, my friends. That's a good piece of advice. And so, John, what about you? What would you tell your younger self?
I'd say slow down. Don't rush to anything. Think about what's going to happen in the future as a result of the actions that you're going to take.
So true.
I know me personally, I changed my major in college 3 or 4 times, wasted a bunch of time in that, changed my career path a couple of times. So I'd say think about your future before you jump into something.
Awesome. So just think about it. Move slowly. And I think being present, that kind of goes off of it too. Enjoy where you're at. I was always in such a hurry to grow up, and now I'm like, adulting? Who signed me up for this? Why? So last question before we jump into your businesses. If you could change one thing about the world, what would it be?
I think right now the hot topic is setting our political differences aside and just being people and being good to each other, for sure.
Totally. I'm with you all the way on that one. Steve, what would you say?
Boy, well, I would say if we had a universal language, if we had...
That's cool.
And, there's a lot of discussion about languages tied to culture, and I won't get too in-depth into it, but I think a lot of the issues come because we can't understand each other. We can't communicate with each other, and we don't understand each other.
So. And going back to what you said, we're all people. We're all the same. Our fundamentals are the exact same. So why are we so divided? Thank you for that. That was an awesome warm-up. If you like what you see, be sure to follow our page, click like, and also follow to subscribe to our notifications so you know every time we go live. As I mentioned before, I think it's important to kind of get to know the people that you're preparing to work with. And so I hope that helped you understand who I have sitting here with me a little bit better. And we're going to switch gears here a little bit. So I know this isn't a glamour topic or really something that gives you the warm and fuzzies necessarily, but unfortunately it's something that 50% of married people will experience in their lifetime. And the more informed you are, the better, right? So that topic is divorce, and here to tell us what we need to know is John Griffith, as I mentioned. So John has an extensive trial experience in all areas of family law practice, and he specializes in complex jurisdictional child support and child custody cases, as well as high-asset litigious divorce cases. He also provides divorce mediation services and often successful in setting high-conflict divorces before they make it to the courtroom. So obviously, divorce is one of the most difficult things that pretty much anyone could go through, right? So how do you choose who to work with? Who is a good attorney to represent you?
Well, you got to think you possibly could be working with this person for a significant period of time. I've had divorces that have lasted anywhere between 6 months and even, in one case, 6 years.
Oh, my gosh.
So you're working with the same person for 6 years. You got to get along with them. But you also want them to be able to handle your case in a way that satisfies what you're looking for. So interviewing plenty of attorneys to find an attorney that seems competent enough to handle the issues that you have.
Sure.
While also being someone that's personable that you can see yourself talking to on a regular basis.
Absolutely. And someone that has your best interest in mind, right?
Absolutely.
Really going to go to bat for you.
Right. Not someone out there that's just looking to maybe get your money. You know, someone that's actually there to help you solve your problems.
And unfortunately, you hear that a lot in your industry. So how are you able to differentiate yourself and really stand out from others?
I think my profession is more of a calling in my particular case. I really feel for my clients. I've been through a divorce myself. My 13-year-old is from a prior marriage.
Okay.
So I kind of have an understanding of what these people are going through. So I try to put myself in their shoes when I'm working with them.
Absolutely.
Think about what I would want from my attorney.
Certainly. So let me ask you this. How did you, because you said you mentioned you jumped around jobs a little bit, changed your professions. How did you end up in family law?
Well, you know, I was thinking about, when I was in college, I was thinking about what I wanted to do with my life. And while I was in undergrad, I went through my divorce. I had a young family law attorney that kind of had a passion for what I was going through, and I saw myself in him. And that's when I decided to go to law school.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I love that. I feel like that's always how the story goes. You have an experience yourself, and then it kind of inspires you, right?
Right.
And so set the expectation for us, because divorce isn't pretty, and a lot of people go through it. So what does the process look like? What can someone expect?
So you can't be divorced at any point prior to 6 months from when you file for divorce.
Okay.
So you have to expect that your divorce is going to take at least 6 months before you're single again. You also have to expect to have to jump through all the procedural loops that the California courts require of you. There's a lot of paperwork that goes into it, financial disclosures on both sides, and that could take quite a bit of time. So what I normally tell my clients is don't expect the process to be done, even if it goes as smoothly as possible, less than a year. I think a year is a good timeline for a divorce.
That's a process.
Right.
So do you find that you're able to settle or mediate pretty often, or do you find that most cases go to court? What has your experience been?
Well, I'd say probably 5% of my cases actually go to trial at the end of extensive litigation. That would be after 3 years of various court hearings for little issues.
Ugh, no thank you.
But our goal is always mediation and settlement first. That's always our goal from the very beginning. And I think you can determine rather quickly in a case whether or not the case is going to settle quickly, or if you're looking at extensive litigation.
And one thing I always hear is, keep the child first. And I'm sure that's something you experienced firsthand. So how do you kind of relay that to your clients, that all this fighting and nonsense is really not what needs to be at the forefront of this? It's the child.
Right. I mean, you start with giving the client a reality check as to how their actions might be affecting the kid. A lot of people, when they're going through a divorce, something happened that caused them to have an emotional reaction toward the other person. And emotions, more often than not, kind of cloud your perception of how your actions are affecting others, most notably your kids. So, I refer them to therapists. I refer them to divorce specialists that help them, cope with what they're going through emotionally.
Awesome. So all hands on deck.
Right.
Talk to me about your practice a little bit. It's not just you, so what does that look like?
Yep. 5 attorneys. One of the things that differentiates our law firm from other family law firms is that all 5 of our attorneys are under 40.
Wow.
So we're a young, energetic practice, but we've got the knowledge and skill of some of these law firms that have been around for 25, 30 years. We're really into keeping up on the law. All of us have had the opportunity to work for law firms before we started our practice, where we were kind of thrown in the deep end of the pool as young attorneys. I think I probably had 5 or 6 trials my first year out of law school, which is normally pretty unheard of as far as, partners of law firms trusting young attorneys to go out and make it happen. So I'd say we're young, 5 attorneys, big practice. We handle a lot of cases. We do a good job, too.
And it's all family law?
All family law, yeah.
Awesome. And you're actually a certified family law specialist, correct?
Yeah, became certified 2 years ago. And just to let you know a little bit about what that means.
Please.
You got to be an attorney for 3 years. There's certain requirements as far as experience is concerned. You have to do a certain amount of trials. You have to have a certain amount of legal education credits after law school in certain areas. And then you're also vetted by family law judges. So I had to get special recommendations from judges written to the California State Bar, attesting to my knowledge and experience in front of them.
Okay, awesome. So very experienced. Let me ask you this. Do you find that people are making mistakes, or there's common misconceptions about divorce that maybe we can just relieve for some people, and they'll be like, oh, okay, I won't make that mistake?
I would say number one is hiring the wrong attorney.
Okay.
Make sure that you interview. I would say interview at least 3 attorneys. If I'm the first attorney that someone interviews and they like me a lot and they want to hire me, I often recommend that they go ahead and talk to a couple more people just to make sure that they're making the right decision.
A lot of people would not do that, so I can
Right.
respect for that, definitely.
There's a lot of bad attorneys that give good family law attorneys a bad name. But the second biggest thing, obviously I mentioned it before, is letting your emotions get in the way of making sound decisions. Mm-hmm. So I always sit my clients down and say, look, we have to look at this as a practical matter. Do you want to pay me $100,000 and deplete your child's college fund to fight over something that we could probably settle if you're willing to give a little bit?
Sure.
So.
Well, and I think it becomes to a certain extent, what are we even fighting over? Because if we keep this going, there's not going to be anything to divide at the end anyway, right?
I had a client and the opposing party fight for 6 months and spend about $10,000 in attorney's fees over their dog's ashes, over who was going to get their dog's ashes, and neither one of them would agree to split the dog's ashes in 2. It's stuff like that.
Wow.
Just kind of got to bring them back into reality.
You probably have some incredible stories, I would say. Well, that's John Griffith. He is a certified family law specialist with Griffith, Young and Lass. GYLFamilyLawFirm.com, right?
GYLFamilyLawFirm.com.
Perfect. And is there an email address or phone number you'd like to give out if people are interested in contacting you?
Yeah, 858-345-1720. You can ask for John Griffith, and they'll set up a consultation if you've got some questions. We do free consultations.
Perfect. And one more time, that's GYLFamilyLaw.com, FamilyLawFirm.com, excuse me. So it may not be pretty, but someone's got to do it, right, John?
So we're necessary evils,
yes,
for sure.
Thank you for that. So if you're thinking of divorce, be sure to reach out to someone you can trust who truly has your best interest in mind, and take John's advice and interview a few people and see who's going to really go to bat for you. Next up, I've got Realtor Steve Ploetz, who is here to help you sell your old home and buy a new one. Maybe you're getting divorced and you got to get rid of the house, right?
Definitely.
What a segue, let me tell you. So I took a testimonial off your website, and I'm going to read it because it was so cute that I couldn't let it slide. So it says, I have personally and professionally known this young man since I coached him in soccer and baseball. You know exactly who this is, right? He wasn't the 8-foot giant he is today, but he had all the fixins, true grit and dedication. If Steve tells you something, you can count on it. He's a down-home boy from his heart and soul, but he's a stalwart, smart, and aggressive Lone Star hero from his gut, and he will get the job done. That is an incredible testimonial.
That is an incredible testimonial.
I love it. And I think it's special to come from someone who's known you from your childhood and can watch you grow and become the person you are today. So let's dive right in. And in regards to selling a home, what are some shoulds and should nots for someone looking to sell?
It's a great question. It's a question that I get so commonly about, hey, we're prepping our house for sale. What are some of the things that we need to do? Mm-hmm. What are the things that we should avoid? I think the big thing to recognize is that residential real estate is, I commonly say, is bought and sold on emotion, is that people make decisions not necessarily based on comps and based on price per square foot, but more than that, I would say, to elaborate on that, it's about how it makes people feel. So if you can appeal to those senses, that recognizing that a husband and wife that are coming into a house that has 3 kids, they're worried less about the price per square foot. Certainly that is one of the criteria. Mm-hmm. But they're more importantly is, how does this fit with our children's ability to throw a ball in the backyard? And,
sure.
And if I'm in the kitchen cooking, will I have the drop on them? Those kinds of things. And making the house appeal in those ways. So they say that the big 3 places to put your money is curb appeal, the kitchen, and the master bedroom, master bathroom and closet. So I would start with those and then kind of work backwards.
If someone was going to choose one of those, what would you suggest?
That's a great question. You know, it depends on the property, but curb appeal, as silly as it is people make decisions. I drive buyers around all the time that they make decisions based on the house before they even get into it. That we'll pull up to it, and they've already decided as we're walking in whether this is the house for them.
Sure.
They haven't even seen the inside. Mm-hmm. And so I would probably start with curb appeal.
Gotcha.
It's something simple, and economically it makes the most sense rather than putting in granite countertops or redoing anything.
Sure. So let's switch gears a little bit on the opposite side. First-time home buyers. What an overwhelming process, right? So you're not selling, you're buying. What is some advice you give to them?
Well, I think what a lot of it depends on their timing. And in the perfect world, they would have lots of time. There isn't some rush. There isn't some situation that is creating a, hey, Steve, we need to move by March 1st. And what I tell everybody is, this stuff isn't rocket science. It just requires, it's just new. It's new data. So at the beginning, gather a lot of data. See a lot of houses. Start with a wide map. You're in a $400,000, $500,000 price point. That could be condos. That could be small detached houses. You can look in a variety of neighborhoods. Look at everything. And then slowly pare it down and say, okay, you know what? We've decided, we've talked about it because we have a kid. We don't want a bedroom upstairs and a bedroom downstairs. We want a single level. So cross out all the 2-story homes. Or we've decided it's too expensive to be on the coast, so therefore we want to go inland. So let's look in Vista, Escondido, whatever it may be. But start broad and then gather the data and make some decisions from there. And then through that process, what's so wonderful about it, especially with how competitive the market is that they will see a house that they will not write an offer on, and that house will sell. And then they'll be able to say, and certainly I keep a track of all of the houses that we've seen, so I can go back and say, remember that house that we saw in Sugar Bush? That property that we looked at, that sold at X. Sold above asking price, sold below asking price. It's still on the market. It helps buyers then get a feel for what's going on in the market. So then they themselves can become experts. And when the time comes, they know it's a good deal.
Awesome.
And they don't just need to listen to me.
So I'm renting, and when would you suggest, if I'm going to buy a home, when should I start the process if I don't want to rush and I really want to weigh my options and I don't want to be like, all right, Steve, I got to be out of my apartment in 30 days. What are we going to do, sort of thing? Right. How early should we start?
Probably 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
Give yourself enough time in order that you're not rushed. In the perfect world, yes, you can move seamlessly from a rental directly into the purchased property. But at the same time, you don't want to pigeonhole yourself that if you go into escrow and it's a 30-day escrow and then on day 32 you're moving out of the rental, there's a lot of things that need to happen within escrow. You need to get the property inspected. You need to get the property appraised. And you don't want to end up in a situation where you're so committed to the property that you feel like I thought it was a great property. Now I've discovered that there are some issues with it, and I still got to do it. I still got to go through with it. Right. That's not how you want to start. But something to consider. The more time, the better. And you need an agent that's going to be patient with you and understands that it's going to take some time.
And I know we talked about this when we were on the radio, how awesome your website is. Your website is not like, I'm Steve Ploetz and I'm awesome and this is why you should work for me. It's truly a resource. I mean, there are tons and tons of different articles and information on there on what the process looks like. And again, just going back to educating your clients so they know what to expect. And I think that's fantastic. One thing I noticed is that you mentioned making a list. Make a list of things that you absolutely need, non-negotiable, and then make a list of things you want. Talk about the philosophy of that.
Well, I think, and those lists change. We have many stories in all of our professions. I certainly have them, the clients that definitely needed a pool, and then that converted to, I definitely need a community that has a pool, and then it converted to, I definitely need to be within 20 miles of the YMCA so I can swim in a pool. So those wants and needs, but it helps people get an idea of what they want. Because in my opinion, most buyers don't really know what they want until they start looking. Especially situations of when there's more than one decision maker, where there's husband and wife involved. Husband may have in his mind a certain type of home, and wife may have a certain other type of home, and it's the same things that John has talked about in terms of coming together and coming to a resolution, and what are you willing to compromise on.
Yeah, I watch all those shows on HGTV, and I'm always laughing because they're like, the husband wants this, and the wife wants that, and they're going through the houses, and they're totally polarized on what they want and what they expect, and I'm like, how are they ever going to find anything? They haven't even discussed this first with themselves.
Exactly.
So let's switch gears a little bit. Marketing and the importance of staging. What is your philosophy on that, and how are you really able to get these homes sold?
Well, as I mentioned before about the property being bought and sold in a motion, this wonderful thing about the staging is it helps the property show as it should. It helps the property, it depersonalizes it. I mean, for example, I talked about that I have a puppy. So right now the space is filled with puppy stuff. And our space is set up so particularly for that. But if I were selling the home, I would want it to show in a way where someone could walk in and feel themselves in it, not feel like they're walking into someone else's house. It's the same reason that we always recommend that the seller not be home for showings. Because then inevitably, if I walk into somebody else's house, I'm now in their house.
Sure.
I'm not in a house that I can picture myself in. They're showing me their home. And so the staging really works to do that, to help spaces to help us imagine as buyers how we could fit in a space and live in that kind of space.
And that's kind of something that you go out of your way for your clients to ensure that they have that, right? You even pay out of pocket for
Correct. And that's one difference is I tell all of my sellers, look, staging, let's do it because I pay for it. So you get all the benefits, you get a professional that comes in, and in the end it is the seller's home. So there's the balance between we want it to look like a show home as best as we can, but it's also still their home. So if they have 3 small kids and a dog, it needs to function in that kind of capacity. But the wonderful thing is, so I pay for a professional interior designer to come through. She gives them some ideas. She can use their existing furniture if we want to bring in supplemental furniture or items to put on the wall, or a variety of things, from plants to patio furniture. All of that is paid for by me. So it gives some additional options. And she has a whole crew. She can move their furniture into the garage. We can figure out storage. All of those situations help, particularly when, and it always happens, that after it happens, then the seller says, I should have done this when I moved in. This place looks remarkable.
Right, yeah. Like, man, I have to leave this now?
Yeah,
what?
Exactly.
And I assume then staging obviously helps for amazing photos and the marketing of the property too.
Without a doubt. There's nothing, there's so much information that's readily available online. If I was going to move to Virginia, the first place that I would go is I'd look online because I don't know anything about that market.
Sure.
And so therefore, if I can look through literally 10,000 properties, each property has like 2 seconds to win me. And so if you're going to try to win me with rooms that have nothing in them and just show carpet or wood,
taken on your cell phone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That are not done by a professional, unfortunately, I go to the next property.
Right.
And so that's the whole point of all of the marketing. The staging, the professional photography is to get someone in the door, is because that will be the opportunity for them to buy it, is that we want them to say, I'm going to save this property. I'm going to tell my agent about this property. I'm going to reach out to Steve about this property. I want to see this property.
Awesome. Good stuff. So you really go above and beyond, and I love that about you. But let's switch gears and talk about the market, probably your favorite question. I keep hearing that daylight savings is kind of like the dead period, and like, oh, you don't want to list your house then. So what are you kind of seeing, and what is your opinion on, is there a really great time to list? Or we're in San Diego. It's nice year-round. So what's your opinion?
It depends on the type of property. If you live in a community where you are selling school district, and that's the main focus of what you're selling. Yes, there are some advantages to not selling it in the middle of the school year. However, there's so many different types of property that have nothing to do with the summer season or nothing to do with school districts at all. High rises downtown. The demographic that's living there is young professionals, is people with second homes, is investors looking for rentals.
Sure.
It doesn't have anything to do with the San Diego school district. And because it is beautiful year-round, you can make the argument that somebody that is looking in January, depending on where they're coming from, if they're coming from Denver or some of these other communities, they're leaving a situation that is not as fun. And they're arriving in San Diego, and they're looking at property, and it's 73 degrees. And I'm reminding them, you got to complain if you're going to be a local.
Time to complain. Start complaining. So do you see home values continuing to rise? Are we just continuing on the upwards trajectory here?
That's probably the most common question that I get is, what's going to happen? Should I jump into the market? Maybe I'm renting. Maybe I'm thinking about moving up. The value has gone up. Is it going to continue to go up? I try to look at it purely from an economic standpoint, which is the basics of supply and demand. Right now, there's an immense amount of demand. There's a lot of people that want to buy that haven't been able to buy and that have been writing offers on property, and it's tremendously pent up. I have numerous stories of a client that is in escrow right now. He wrote offers on 2 different houses. One of them had 11 offers. The other had 20 offers.
Whoa.
So what that means is, in those cases, there is 29 other buyers that are still out in the market right now that are looking for what he's looking for. So that there isn't the inventory to support that. And so unless there becomes a tremendous amount of increase in the supply, in my opinion, I think that things are going to continue to go in the direction they're going. Certainly a bump in interest rates always has everybody a little bit concerned, but it doesn't impact the purchase market nearly as much as that impacts the refinance market. If I have a kid and I'm living in a 1-bedroom house, I need to move. Whether the market is great or terrible,
Sure.
I need a roof over my head. And so I think that's kind of what impacts it. So this is a really long-winded, roundabout way for me to say, in my opinion, the market is going to continue as it is for probably another 18 to 24 months, another year or two. And until we see a significant amount of supply, I don't see any drastic changes.
What a perspective, though. I didn't even think about the fact, 20 offers on one home or 29, that is unbelievable. And to think that people are getting above asking price as a result. So how do you kind of coach your clients on what to offer to actually get the house if they're really serious about it?
Well, I think that people have a tendency to think that it's all about price. And many times it's not about price. I mean, certainly that's the most common argument. But in this case of the client that went against 10 other offers, he's financed. He's doing an FHA loan. He doesn't have a significant down payment. He's not a cash buyer. We made the offer as clean as we could in the other ways, in the terms of the offer. That we wrote up front that we would buy the property as is, that we had already inspected it prior to writing the offer, and that we were comfortable with the property. And there were a couple of things in it. There were a couple of things that worked in our advantage. My client is a licensed contractor, so he was able to go through the property for about 45 minutes prior to writing the offer, and was able to make some decisions there. But quick close, of course we've talked about there's the contingency period where the buyer has the ability to back out, and or once they remove contingencies, then they're making their earnest money to go hard. We shortened those time periods. And the reason that I say that not every seller is concerned about prices is you have to look at who is the seller, what type of seller. In this case, it's trust. There's 3 different people that are all over the country. They want to sell the property for the best dollar that they can, but they want to sell it.
Right.
They don't want to just hang on to this property for months on end or have somebody, I was going to say waddle. Waffle? There's a word here that I'm looking for. Not waddle around. But
I kind of like that.
I think it's waffle, but that makes me think of pancakes. But
yeah,
anyways,
I don't know. Any thoughts
waffle,
on that?
I think it's waffle.
I think it's waffling.
I've never heard that before.
I think it's waffling. Yeah, they don't want a waffling.
Google?
Bar.
Anyone? Can we Google
Wavering
waffle?
or waffling?
Yeah.
I think it is. I think that's right.
Everybody's like, waffle it is. Okay. So before we switch gears one more time here, talk about your level of service. What can someone expect when they're working with you, Steve?
Well, I think what they can expect is they can expect to work with me. Is that they're not going to be dealing with some huge team. They're not going to be passed along to somebody that doesn't care about the situation. I pride myself on being present, on being fully invested in what's going on in their world. I mean, both literally and figuratively when we talk about the staging, that I am personally invested, but also I'm motivated by being part of the solution. And so figuring out the problem is probably the number one place to start. But then I work very, very hard in order to be present for that.
I think you both have that in common, right? Just That's really right. Your best interest of your client and doing what you truly think is going to be the best situation for them. And you're actually both in Carlsbad, right?
Right, we're off of Faraday.
It's a match made in heaven.
Da, 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 da. Who did that? Seriously? Someone is so good, Kyle. Okay, guys, so that is Steve Ploetz. He's a realtor with Century 21 Award. You can find him at steveploetzhomes.com, and I will spell his last name for you because it's not how it sounds. It's Ploetz. Steve Ploetz. steveploetzhomes.com. And is there a phone number, maybe an email address you'd like to give out?
Definitely. Phone is probably best. You can text me at 760-525-5917.
Hit us with that one more time.
760-525-5917.
Awesome. So, John, I'm going to come back to you. Any thoughts on all the stuff Steve just spewed out?
Well, we work with realtors all the time.
Yeah.
And one of the unfortunate situations in divorce is you got to sell the house. You got to split the house. You're taking sometimes one income that supports the family to one income that supports 2 families. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at a downsizing situation. Of course, there's always the case where either the husband or the wife can afford to buy the interest out of the other party, but you don't see that often. So I would say that my biggest piece of advice when you're looking at the issue of real estate and divorce is have a plan, a financial plan moving forward before you pull the trigger on filing for divorce. If you're a woman that's been at home with the kids, a traditional family kind of situation, and you plan on divorcing your husband for whatever reason, then look into the future and figure out what your budget's going to be. You have to expect that you're no longer going to afford to live in the house that you live in. Mm-hmm. So are you going to rent? Are you going to be able to afford to buy a smaller house with your half of the money that comes out of the sale? Those are the kinds of things that you need to be looking at.
Absolutely. And do you find that people have already gone to see a realtor when they come to see you, or do you typically advise, hey, you should probably go talk to someone?
It really depends on the person.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, before they go and talk to an attorney, they'll ask their friends that have been divorced, what's your experience? What do you think I should do? But for the most part, it's people that are walking in blind, that really need some hand-holding.
Sure.
And need a lot of practical advice that's completely unrelated to my role as their legal counsel. And that's one of the special things that we offer to our clients, is kind of a personal aspect to the whole thing.
Sure. So that's John Griffith, Certified Family Law Specialist with Griffith, Young, and Lass. You can find him at gylfamilylawfirm.com. What is kind of the takeaway for today regarding your practice, and what should people know regarding the divorce process?
I would say be smart, be thoughtful. Like I said before, take emotions out of it. And, of course, hire the right attorney. And, in my opinion, we're the best. So call
Heck
us.
yeah. Da, 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 da. Give us that phone number one more time.
858-345-1720.
Perfect. And Steve Ploetz, Realtor with Century 21 Award. You can find him at steveploetzhomes.com. What's the nugget for today? What do people need to remember?
Gather the data and analyze the data. The data.
Waffle.
They're waffle. See houses. As a seller, you can see houses to see what your competition is. Look at comps. Make educated decisions. And have somebody and be patient. Have somebody that is there to walk with you in that small journey.
Awesome. And give out your phone number one more time.
760-525-5917.
Awesome. Good stuff. Thank you, Rebecca Peters, for filming us and making us look so good. This is the new and improved Real Talk San Diego, coming to you live from Smarter San Diego Studios. We're here to bring you the business of life in America's finest city. Don't forget to follow us and subscribe to our notifications. You'll be able to see our announcements the day before, so you can mark your calendars, whether you'll be at home, at your desk, or on the go. Real Talk San Diego is live on Wednesdays between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. We have a show for just about every San Diego community, so be sure to check out our other pages to stay up to date on all things San Diego. I'm Claire McKee. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you soon. Make it a great day.